Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C, and we're talking on Charlton and Big C Sports. We do it worldwide every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Charlton and Big C Sports. Today is May the 10th, 2016. I want to thank all of our listeners for sending out tweets. Over 106,000 tweets in just about 2 months. So thank you for listening in. And also, I want to thank you in Latin America. So bienvenidos to all of our Latin American audience. Big C, I'm going to have to learn some Spanish pretty soon, getting some of your tweets from Latin America, ESPN Deportes. Poquito. And then also over in London, England. And thanking you in Berlin, Germany, also the great country of Canada, and of course the great United States of America. So Big C, I know that today's show is sponsored by Bud Light. It tastes great, helps you lose weight, but I know you good old boys, you like your moonshine. I've been hearing more and more about moonshine. I think even Carl's Jr. has the moonshine burger since we talk so much about moonshine, Big C.
Hey, what we do, everybody had been doing behind closed doors. Now you got national advertising saying, hey, try a little of this moonshine and we'll give you a mug to take home. You know, when you got national food franchises know how good this beverage is that we have down here, you can't be doing everything wrong.
I said, wait a minute. Moonshine doesn't pay taxes, but Carl Jr. charges tax on their burger, so we might have to get them as a sponsor, Big C.
Well, you know, we never said that we produce this stuff, Charlton.
Right.
There's always been a legend. I can't confirm nor can I deny that this beverage exists. See?
Okay, I understand. All of the north in the house. But anyway, Big C, I know that you were talking about so many things with sports, and we know Steph Curry, NBA's MVP, first time unanimous MVP, never happened even with Wilt Chamberlain, didn't happen with the great Michael Jordan, didn't happen with Larry Bird, didn't happen with Magic Johnson, but we definitely have it with Steph Curry, so I know we'll get into him a little bit later, but I know you were talking about the Invictus Games that they're having right now, and you have Johnny Weissmuller you were talking about, Big C. What are your thoughts on him?
Well, you know, Charlton, Johnny Weissmuller is the first great athlete to transcend from sports to movies. Now, between 1924 Olympics and the 1928 Olympics, Johnny Weissmuller, a swimmer, won 5 gold medals, an unprecedented feat for the time, Charlton, when you think about that era in the world.
Yeah.
After that, he went on to sign a movie contract with MGM Studios, where he starred 11 times in Tarzan, the 8-man movies.
Oh, yeah.
And he made that series very successful. You know, you think about it, an actor having 11 movie run.
Yeah.
But not only after that, Charlton, but he went on to star in 13 more movies after that, after his contract with MGM was up. But you think about the dominance of a Johnny Weissmuller. I know we talked about the Invictus Game.
Yeah.
Yesterday with all the great charitable work from Prince Harry of England, how he's brought all these former combat soldiers together who had been wounded during their tours of military duty, and, you know, what he has done to make them proud people again, to show that they can still compete and be competitive in life.
Yeah.
And that's what Johnny Weissmuller started, this era of athletes becoming actors, Charlton. And he did it pre-steroids, winning the 5 gold medals. And so you think about it, he was a real natural athlete. And so you got to give a lot of praise to him for that and that alone, Charlton.
Yeah, when you think about how hard it is to condition any athlete, especially when you're maybe missing a limb, not only do you have to overcome that psychologically, but they just have to stay focused on being whatever they want to be. So that's an inspiration to everybody, Big C, when you talk about athletes competing at a high level. Imagine doing it when you don't have all of your limbs. So congratulations to all the contestants there, and we know we wish you the very best as you compete in the games. Also, this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealer, home of the all-new Escalade, the standard of the world. You can only get it brand new at your Northern California Cadillac dealer. And when you go by and test drive it, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. Now, Big C, when you talk about basketball, there's a lot of good things happening in the world of the NBA. And I know over the years, you go back to Oscar Robertson, Pistol Pete Maravich, you go back to the great, even Bill Walton, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, you know, Lou Alcindor when he had that name. But I think about basketball players now. When you say who's a great player, people think, well, Magic Johnson. People think Michael Jordan. But Stephen Curry, young man, only 28 years old, the first player to become the unanimous NBA MVP, and he's done so much for Golden State. They hadn't really played in a series since they played Houston, but last night against Portland, he showed why he's the league MVP. Big C, your thoughts on him?
Well, to come out and play at the level that he played last night, Charlton, with so many question marks behind his health, he's the consummate professional.
Yeah.
Being the unanimous MVP and winning back-to-back MVPs is a phenomenal feat in any sport, Charlton, when you play.
Yeah.
We've never seen a shooter like him. We've seen him close. Now, I'm reminded of the great George Gervin, the Iceman who played in San Antonio, who had numbers similar to Steph Curry when he had seasons where he went from 27 to 29 to 33 points a game in back-to-back seasons. And we've seen that from Steph. I think with him winning this unanimous MVP, I think the media writers would have been scared to be the stupid guy to write against him, to vote against him.
Yeah.
Because with the media the way it is now, even these guys get exposed, Charlton.
Yeah.
And so you may have been ostracized if you had voted against Steph Curry. Not to say he was not deserved of a unanimous choice when you talk about some of the great seasons throughout NBA history when you had Wilt averaging 54 points a game and couldn't be a unanimous MVP. You had Kareem averaging in the mid-30s, couldn't be a unanimous MVP. You had players over time that they were the dominant players. But you have to be very appreciative of what Steph has done this year. Now, Charlton, the thing that gets me the most, now, I know everybody in America saw the commercial with his dad, and his brother.
Oh, the popcorn?
His dad was coming to get in his chair.
Yeah.
And he's sitting there in his dad's chair in the den, and he's talking about, he just grunts a little bit, and he says, one MVP?
Yeah.
Now, what are they going to do now? Does his dad leave him in the chair? Now he has 2 MVPs. Now, Dale was a great player in the NBA for 17 years.
Yeah.
But he has to even pay homage to his son, greatness at the level that he's achieved. Now, his younger brother, Seth, plays with your team, the Sacramento Kings, out there.
Yeah.
So, there's going to be a lot of people in the household that's kind of envious. And even Mom was a great soccer player at Virginia Tech. So, but what Steph has done is in rarefied air, or rarefied water, whatever you want to call it, Charlton.
Yeah.
He has set a precedence. He has changed the face of the NBA. And his legacy really won't be known, Charlton, for the next 10 to 12 to 15 years. As you see players start to develop now, and you see this three-point shot really take off in the NBA.
Yeah.
And that's how players, they're going to forget about playing inside. We talk about Durant being 6'9", 6'10", being a perimeter player. There's not going to be any post players in the NBA in about 8 years.
Well, when you think
everybody's going to want to emulate Steph Curry.
Yeah, and the Warriors with NBA record 73 wins in the regular season, and they improved on last year. Now, I know everyone talks about they have to win it again back-to-back. That's going to be challenging because you have San Antonio and OKC. They play tonight, very tough series. But one thing I like about Curry, just some more numbers on this guy, and he led the league in scoring at 30.1 points a game, shattered his own record for three-pointers by making 402 three-point shots this season, becoming the first player in league history to top 300 and 400 in a season. And the fact that he shoots about 50% from the floor, that just shows how incredible he is. He's also leading the league as a leader. Not only as a guy, someone that everybody likes, no one really hates him. Even though you got to beat him, he has respect of everybody. He's not a player that people love to hate. So congratulations to him. And I think he even helped Luke Walton get a job, Big C, because Luke Walton got the chance to ride on the coattails of him and got him a front row seat at the Lakers down there with the great Jack, Big C. Your thoughts on how he helped Luke Walton get a job in Los Angeles?
Well, Charlton, when you look at what the Warriors have done with Steph and even with Steph out of the lineup this year, this is an offense that's perpetual motion, Charlton.
Yeah.
And you talk about San Antonio and you talk about OKC. That is a gladiator series between those two teams. Those two teams are wearing each other down, Charlton.
Yeah.
And so when you think about Steph missing 3 games, that's 3 games that he got his legs back under him, Charlton. Even though he had the leg injury, he's going to be a little more healthier because of this, missing those games.
Yeah.
And so when you look at the pressure that they put on a team's defense, Charlton, by running around all the time, running off picks and screens, staying in motion, have that, as you want to call it, this is a version of the triangle offense that Phil Jackson put together in Chicago.
With a great three-point shooter.
That's what Steve Kerr has done in Golden State. He's brought his own new updated version of the triangle offense. Now, you think about the players, Iguodala, what's the center that they have?
Bogut, Andrew Bogut, yeah.
You think about Harrison Barnes.
Yeah.
You think about some of the players that they have. They have 3 players on that team that were members of the Philadelphia 76ers, Charlton.
Mm-hmm.
They won more games this year than they did probably in their career in Philadelphia.
Well, that's always something that's good to note out too, Big C.
They bought into the system, and they have the perfect physical personnel to run this offense, led by Steph Curry. But they also realize as a team, Charlton, with Steph there, they may be in the media eyes taking a second seat to Steph Curry.
Yeah.
But in Steph Curry's eyes and the rest of his teammates, they're all equal, and that's what's made him so great in the past 2 years, Charlton.
Yeah, one of the great things about him, when they showed him give his speech today, he was there with all of his teammates behind him, and he not only thanked his teammates and his coaching and Steve Kerr, but he thanked a lot of people that helped him grow up, from high school coaches, college coaches, and, of course, his parents, his sister and his brother, and his wife, of course, but just a great person, and his head is on his shoulders. He talked about having faith in God and belief and all the things that you want to hear in a young man. I wish him nothing but success and just a phenomenal player. And also around the NBA, we have other things going on too, because we talked about how the Miami Heat and the Toronto Raptors in the Eastern Conference, obviously both are tied, series is tied at 2 apiece. Dwayne Wade came up big last night. He scored 30 points to lead the Miami Heat in their series, and you can't say enough about him. But I think when you look at Toronto, this is a team that should be up, but both of these teams, in the 4 games they played, they go into overtime 3 times, Big C. So that's going to be a hard-fought match when you figure out who's going to reach the chance to play Cleveland in the Eastern Conference Finals. I'm not really going to look past Dwayne Wade, even though I thought Toronto had the advantage in that series, Big C. Your thoughts on Dwayne Wade just playing like a superstar down the stretch?
Well, Charlton, a month ago, I thought Toronto was the best team in the East, the way that they were playing.
Yeah.
And there was still some disarray in Cleveland.
Yeah.
There was some uncertainty about who was really running the team. And, I think more so now that LeBron James has took a step back and allowed his teammates to play, they become a consistent team.
Yeah.
But when you look at Dwayne Wade, Charlton, he's been in this position many times before. If you think about the number of times he's been in the NBA Finals during his career, he's been there 5 times, Charlton.
Yeah.
Not many players in the league have been to the NBA Finals 5 times. And with 3 championships out of that. So this time of the year, and people have talked about Dwayne Wade getting old for the past 5 years.
Yeah.
I think the talk has gotten old to Dwayne Wade.
I think Dwayne Wade has found some of that moonshine you good old boys have down south, because he's not playing like an old man. He's playing like he's 20-something right now, Big C. In fact, when you look at Miami, they led for only 13 seconds in the 4th quarter. They trailed the whole game. They only took the lead 13 seconds left in the 4th quarter. They never trailed in overtime. So when we talked about Gervin, we talked about Magic Johnson and Bird and all the great all-stars over the years and Kareem. And here's a guy that I have more respect for him. And we see without LeBron James there, he really is an all-star, but he took a back seat when LeBron came to make the team better. And so I have a lot more respect for Dwayne Wade, just seeing how he's playing, even though he had the knee injuries. I think it says a lot to veteran players how you really aren't old as long as you keep climbing. And this guy's pounding away, Big C, so I'm really impressed with his effort.
Well, the greatness of the man, Charlton, comes to the forefront when you look at that. He had to do that same scenario a decade ago when Shaq came to Miami.
Yeah.
He understood that, hey, I'm here about winning a championship, and the role that I need to play is of the best teammate that you can have.
Yeah.
And that's what he has done, And this young man, and he's a middle-aged man now in sports years, is almost like being a dog. You just get old.
You just get old. And speaking of, go ahead, Big C.
But Dwayne Wade has never wavered from being a great teammate.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of players that can learn from Dwayne Wade's demeanor and professionalism.
Yeah, and talking about players that can learn from professionalism, and this segment is also sponsored by your Northern California BMW dealer, home of the ultimate driving machine. Go down and test drive the 1 Series all the way up to the flagship 600 horsepower M7, also known as the 760 Li. And when you go down and test drive it, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. The Sacramento Kings, they hired David Jager, and he got at Memphis to a 147-99 record and 3 playoff berths and 3 seasons. And he didn't get along with his front office, but he beat out the likes of Nate McMillan, Mike Woodson, and Frank Vogel to headline the Sacramento Kings. So hopefully the Kings will open their new arena where the coaches have some playoff experience, and maybe that's what Jager would give them. Also,
well, Charlton, I'm always confused at that, and you're younger and more intelligent than what I am.
Yeah.
How does a coach who makes the playoffs 3 consecutive years lose his job? Now, when they were playing San Antonio, they had some injuries.
Yeah.
And San Antonio was as hot as anybody at that time.
Yeah.
But, you make the playoffs 3 consecutive years. You got a 62% winning percentage.
Yeah.
And you lose your job as a head coach. But yet, I look around the NBA as well as many other professional sports where you have coaches with a 35 to 40% winning percentage, and they're keeping their jobs, don't know what to play. They can't even spell playoffs. but they keep a job. So I'm trying to figure this out. Is it worth winning in all professional sports if you're only going to get fired? And we've seen 3 or 4 coaches this year to have that happen to him.
Yeah, and we know, obviously, he didn't get along with his front office. So oftentimes, Big C, it's about who you get along with.
You're not dating the front office, okay? You're putting butts in the seats. You're getting fans in there. You're getting players to be productive. The front office, everybody can't be a Mark Cuban and a Jerry Jones wanting all the hoorah.
Yeah.
Let a coach and let your team win, Charlton.
Well, I think Sacramento might be the victor in that. And even though they seem to go through coaches the way people change suits, hopefully he'll stick around for a little bit longer.
Well, I don't own a suit, you have to inform me about that when we off air.
I know you good old boys go freestyle down in the South Big C. Also, other news around the NBA, the San Antonio Spurs, Buford is the top executive. R.C. Buford, the latest person to take a victory lap for San Antonio, and he's the Spurs general manager. He led the field with 77 points in voting by fellow NBA executives. Portland's Neil Olshey finished second, and Golden State's Bob Myers was third. Now, also around the NBA, the Minnesota Timberwolves, Zach LaVine, the NBA Slam Dunk champion, he works with the School for the Deaf, and he's being added as a benefit that never saw coming for him. He said he's awarded the NBA's CARES Community Assist Award for April for his work with the Metro Deaf School in St. Paul, Minnesota. So good job for him, that young man. A lot of guys doing things behind the scenes as well, Big C. But
Charlton, that's what you don't hear enough about.
Yeah.
You don't hear about the quality men in the professional leagues who are doing great community and charitable work. We hear so much about the police bloggers going on, the suspensions, the steroid suspensions. Another baseball player from Kansas City just got popped with 50 games. But when you have these quality individuals that run under the radar, and not that they're seeking out publicity, but the talking heads really don't care about them. They care more about denigrating a player who's had some off-the-court or off-the-field issues than they do about the quality young men, Charlton, who are out there assisting and becoming better members of society and assisting those who really care and need some help, Charlton.
Yeah, I think so. Congratulations to him, because a lot of players do a lot of good things. I know Steph Curry, for every 3-pointer, he donates a net for malaria, to help cure malaria. So he's done a lot of good things off the court as well as being an NBA MVP. Now, as we transition, Big C, man, open up your checkbooks. Major League Baseball, Steven Strasburg, has just agreed to a new contract with the Washington Nationals that would pay the right-hander $175 million over the next 7 seasons, Big C. Where's the money coming from? I don't think he's been in the World Series. I don't think he's won a playoff game, Big C. How does he get that kind of money? Just on perception, Big C?
Well, Charlton, he hasn't played 3 complete seasons in Major League Baseball yet. But I think the big thing is that his agent, Scott Bortles, didn't want him to get out on the free agent market, and neither did Major League Baseball. Because if he'd got on the free agent market, he most likely would have been ended up with the Yankees.
Yeah.
And we've known how this organization is loaded up with free agency over the years and stayed a solid presence in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
But, $175 million, Charlton, for a guy who's never won 20 games.
Right.
That's astronomical money. Now, he plays on the team with Bryce Harper, who is one of the hottest young guns in baseball, and he has an enormous contract. So, but, Strasburg has had Tommy John surgery, so he's not the player that he was when he was drafted out of San Diego State when he was throwing 102 to 103 miles an hour.
Yeah.
But, at $175 million, and you haven't made the playoffs, so hopefully Dusty Baker can get things turned around.
I hope so, because, they're near the Washington Mint. I'm just wondering if there's a leak. We talk about the national debt. I think they need to find the guys that play for the Washington Nationals and see where all that money's going in Washington. That's a big payroll. I hope that Dusty Baker can turn things around there in Washington. But he's going from making $7.4 million this season to $25 million annually starting 2017 to 2023. I mean, he's not a catfish hunter. He's not a Vita Blue. He's not someone even like Madison Bumgarner last year. I just think that if the guys can get the money, obviously you get the money. And for all the sports out there, we talk about Roger Goodell trying to make more diversity available in the NFL with the black colleges down south like the MEAC and the SWAC. But when a player that doesn't even have a history of being in the playoffs is worth $175 million, I just wonder, how does that happen, number one? And number two, what's the reason? It just doesn't make any sense outside of maybe this moonshine being passed around when they're signing these contracts. I think they should put the drinks down when they start giving players that haven't won that kind of money. Just your thoughts on that, Big C.
Well, Charlton, as you say, $25 million a season for 7 seasons. And he hasn't had a 20-win season yet.
No, not at all.
He's gonna be making in excess of $1.2 to $1.3 million a win.
Yeah.
Based on his averages during his career. So that's a lot of money. And he doesn't have complete games. He's only pitching 6.5 to 7.5 innings in a game.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
The money is stupid.
Yeah.
It's not that it doesn't make sense. The money is stupid.
Now, I'm saying I would like the $175 million, Big C. Don't get me wrong, because I haven't won 20 games either, so at least we have something in common. But also, if you look around Major League Baseball, the Yankees 6, the Royals 3, Carlos Beltran hit 2 of New York's 5 solo home runs in the first 3 innings off Chris Young. The Red Sox 14 and the A's 7. The A's continue to struggle. And Jackie Bradley Jr. extended his career-high hitting streak to 15 games with a grand slam and a 2-run single for the host Boston Red Sox. It was the White Sox 8, the Rangers 4, the Astros 7, the Indians 1. And then also in the National League, Big C, the Marlins 4, the Brewers 1, Diamondbacks 10, the Rockies 5, Jake Lamb homered and tripled and drove in 4 runs, helping the visiting Arizona Diamondbacks win its 4th game in a row. The Reds 3 and the Pirates 2. Now, Big C, in our final segment, it's also sponsored by your Northern California Ford dealerships. They build them Ford Tough, home of the all-new F-150. When you go down and test drive it, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. There's 2 things I want to touch on, Big C, because we're talking about NFL draft just over the past couple of days or past couple of weeks. And Chip Kelly, a lot of the 49er players are complaining that he makes them work out too hard, Big C. They want the money without the hard work. But Chip Kelly's not in the greatest shape, so why does he work his players so hard, Big C? I know it worked at Oregon, but this is the NFL where players usually pack about 300 pounds plus as offensive linemen. You can't really run them the way you do college players, Big C. Your thoughts on that?
Well, Charlton, Chip Kelly has not missed a meal since joining the NFL. He's gained some girth, and you're talking about offensive lineman at 300 pounds.
Yeah.
Chip Kelly right now is leaning on that side of the scale.
Yeah.
But, I kind of agree with the players. See, Kelly wants to have that mentality that he ran that fast-paced offense at Oregon where you're getting off a play every 15 to 17 seconds. He tried that with the Eagles. He had some success in his first year with Michael Vick running the quarterback helm for him in Philadelphia. And he's looking at that once again with Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah.
But when you're pushing around, Charlton, 320, 335-pound offensive linemen, they're not going to move consistently at that pace. And when you look at what the Niners had across their offensive line, all these guys were big guys, 300-plus, Even their first round draft pick out of Stanford weighed in at 325.
Yeah.
So, this is something you got to work players into gradually as a coach. We all understand each coach has his own philosophy, but all college philosophies don't always translate great into the NFL.
Yeah.
You have to adapt to the personnel that you have there, that you have to work with. It's not like you're going out recruiting 25 new players every year to fit your system like you do in college. So you have to do a little more adaptation on the NFL level, Charlton, to the personnel you have on your staff.
Yeah, I agree, because this is not like college kids that you can browbeat them and tell them it's going to be your way or the highway.
Free labor?
That free labor.
That free labor? Oh, okay.
that good old boy free labor. This is not that. But as we look at that, I just hope that there's a safety method involved, because we're talking about CTE. We're talking about players getting brain trauma for playing too physical, maybe not having enough safety, or I think when you tire players out, Big C, the fatigue factor is going to be there. That's when players tend to get hurt more, when the fatigue factor sets in. So I just hope that Chip Kelly can adapt a little bit more. He never won a national championship at Oregon, even though he did win a few Pac-10 championships. But I hope he takes the players' thought in mind when it comes to that. And as we get into this final segment, Big C, I just want people to know that this segment is also sponsored by BeneathHisWingsFoundation.org. To support or donate, go to bhwf.org and contact Cynthia Evans at CYNN Entertainment. She's the best at promotions in Northern California. And when you tweet out to her, let her know that Charlton and Big C sent you. Also by United Labor, guaranteed issued $100,000 in life insurance policy, no medical checks. And also by Goosehead Insurance, the best in PNC coverage. Contact Charlton and Big C. Now, Big C, the last thing I want to bring up, the Olympics is coming up. There's a Brazilian soccer great by the name of Rivaldo. He's telling tourists to stay away from the Olympics in Rio de Janeiro because of the danger and the violence going on down there in that society. Now, Coach Krzyzewski, who just had hernia surgery, coaches Duke University, he's going to coach the men's national Olympic team. When you go outside of the United States, obviously you have issues of safety. We know of all the good and bad things that happen in the world. But when you deal with other issues, the Olympics, we talked about the water issues down there, how some of the hospitals aren't up to par with what you have in the United States. When you have a soccer player saying stay away, how do the athletes deal with that, Big C? Because you know they're not going to stay away. There's too much money on the line, Big C.
Well, the great Ronaldo is one of the greatest players in the world, Charlton. But, when you look at the troubles that they have in Brazil, you talk about the Zika virus, where the World Health Organization has told just the general public to steer away, and especially if you're a pregnant female, definitely do not go to Brazil. But Brazil, Charlton, over the decades have had a heavy pollution problem.
Yeah.
It has been one of the most dingy, underkept countries in the world. Now, we all see Carnival and the pretty face that Brazil can put on. But so much of that country lives in poverty, Charlton. You're talking about 65 to 70% of the population of Brazil lives in poverty. So when you have poverty, you have poor sanitation and water scenarios, Charlton. And so all of that is going to affect what happens when athletes come on. Now, you can always put a new coat of paint on anything.
Yeah.
But you're not going to cover up the reality of life. And that's one of the things that exists in Brazil. It's a heavy cartel-controlled country, Charlton. A lot of drug intake in that country as far as,
it's just a societal
guys who
issue.
are trafficking the narcotics.
Yeah.
That's one of the most dangerous areas in the world, Brazil, those South American countries. And now, how are you going to keep everybody safe? When you talk about sanitation, you're going to talk about the cartel, you're going to talk about the Zika virus, Charlton. This will be one of the most peril Olympics in history, Charlton, when you talk about all of the outside surrounding scenarios that are going into play in Brazil. How do you keep people healthy and safe, Charlton?
Well, when you think about that, the Olympics will open in just under 3 months. In a recent statement by Amnesty International, they said 11 people were killed in police shootings in Rio's impoverished neighborhoods, and at least 307 people were killed by police last year. And I know the Olympics is about bringing people together, but it's also about competition. Well, in part of that competition is keeping people safe. Now, I know every country wants to host the Olympics. They want to put on their best foot. They want to put on the best paint job and make everything look great. But it's something that you got to consider when you travel throughout the country, how this is a world where we have to be we have to be safer. We hope that law enforcement can keep people safe. But some of the issues down there are happening by law enforcement. Sometimes that's been the biggest egregious reason that some people are having issues.
Well,
Big
Charlton, this is a scenario when you look at Brazil that when you talk about the egregious acts by law enforcement, is law enforcement clean?
Yeah.
That is the number one concern down there. And when you look at countries like that, is that you have a lot of people on the take who are not playing above board that are in law enforcement.
Yeah.
They're in cahoots. They run security for these people that are committing illegal acts, Charlton. So who do you trust?
Yeah.
This will be one of the most unsafe Olympics for American as well as world athletes, Charlton. You know, this is something that you would not like to see a recap of the 1972 Munich Olympics, where you had the kidnapping and bombing on one of the helicopters, Charlton. That's the type of scenario that you think about, unfortunately, when you go to Brazil, that you have the cartel involved as one of the major structures of the inner city there.
Yeah, and so as we think about that, I just hope that everybody can be safe. We know that the Olympics is great, and we want everyone to have a good time. But Big C, we just to recap the program today, we talked about the great Steph Curry and how much he's meant to not only Golden State, but to the NBA. We talked about Johnny Weiss Miller, and also we talked about Chip Kelly with the 49ers and his fast-paced practices that a lot of players don't like. The Sacramento Kings have a new head coach as well, so hopefully Dave Joker can have a good success with the Sacramento Kings. But your last thoughts as we close out today's show. You know, NBA is fantastic. Oklahoma City at San Antonio tonight. That's a 5 p.m. game on TNT. The winner of this game most likely will win the series because they are tied up at 2 apiece right now, Big C. Just your thoughts on what we can expect. Can Kevin Durant have another 40-point game tonight at San Antonio, Big C?
Well, as I said, Charlton, this is a gladiator game between San Antonio and Oklahoma City. This is a game, a war of attrition that's going to wear both of these teams down. And the winner of this series will have to face Golden State, a team that has not been as physical.
Yeah.
But, you know, I do like Durant playing, but I do like LaMarcus Aldridge. I think he will dictate the tempo of the game tonight for San Antonio.
Yeah.
And they'll run the offense to him. It's not impossible for him to score 40 points tonight, Charlton.
Well, the favorite is San Antonio by 6.5. The over-under is 200. So that's a lot of points being scored by both teams. I think it's going to be a great game. And no matter who you like, you can always like Charlton and Big C every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, worldwide on the Charlton and Big C Sports Show. We want to bring it to you real sports talk. And we thank you for listening. We appreciate you, and we hope you have a super fantastic day.